5 weeks in college football has seen some impressive moments that fans will cherish forever. Top teams dethroned from their excellence, average squads ascending to the top, and now we have the most anticipated week of the 2021 college football season. Number 1 Alabama heads to College Station to wrestle with the 12th man in Texas A&M. A struggling 6th-ranked Oklahoma Sooners head to Dallas to face Sark and the Texas Longhorns. The 2nd-ranked Bulldogs of Georgia head to the plains of Auburn in the Deep South's oldest rivalry. And to top it all off, number 4 Penn State at number 3 Iowa. Sit back, grab your popcorn, from the words of Lane Kiffin, and enjoy college football wraparound.
And with that, welcome. It's college football wraparound. We are thankful that you are joining us this afternoon. And doesn't that intro sum it all up for us all? College football and some of its biggest games. Today, like in the intro, it's the most anticipated day of college football this season. So, with that, Jack Naylor joins me. How are you?
Doing good, Cooper. How are you doing?
Pretty good. So let's dive into our first topic. I want to talk about the future of Notre Dame, and I think that it's important because of how they played last week, losing to a Cincinnati team that could be going to the college football playoff. So, what do you take out of Notre Dame's future?
Well, I think the future's still bright. They just have quarterback problems. But other than that, I still think they're very bright. I think you can see them possibly finish the year with just one loss and still be very likely to make the playoffs themselves.
I think for me, I think Notre Dame does have a bright future. And I think that, like you said, quarterback is the issue right now. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, Cincinnati, they're not exactly a pushover anyway, because Cincinnati's a good team. But I will say one thing. I don't know if how they've been playing, if it's going to be good enough to make the playoff, because, I mean, you look at their schedule, would they have the, and I guess this is a question for you, do you think they have the, do you think that they would have a signature win that would put them in the playoff?
Are we talking Notre Dame or Cincinnati?
Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, it's still Notre Dame. If they only got one loss, and potentially that one loss would be to an undefeated Cincinnati, then yes, I do think they'd have a case. They're going to Virginia Tech today. They'll still play USC. And yeah, their schedule's still going to be good enough, yes. I see Notre Dame, if it's a bunch of one-loss teams, I see them having a very good case for the playoffs.
And, I mean, their defense has played well. Of course, its first year under new defensive coordinator Marcus Freeman, who came from Cincinnati. And, of course, there's a lot of storylines last week at that Cincinnati-Notre Dame game. Of course, Brian Kelly playing his former place where he was a head coach at. And I think for Notre Dame, I think one thing you got to watch out for is I think that they've got to make sure that they put teams away in the end. Because, I mean, they've only had one game where you could say, okay, they outright won, and that's against Wisconsin. And then the rest of the games they've played, they've struggled a little bit. So I think for Notre Dame, I think what I would like to see is that I want to see them execute just a little bit better on offense, but at the same time, they've got to figure out the quarterback. Who do you think it's going to be? Is it going to be Jack Cohn, or is it going to be some of these other guys who have come in relief of him?
Well, I think it'll be Jack Cohn, but you also got to think he's been injured too. He's got a little injuries dealing with, but they played very good with him. But I think you're making a point about, they got to blow people out, they got to look good. I think that's a problem. I think people worry so much about style points. They're just winning. If you're a Power 5 school like Notre Dame, they go Wisconsin, they're going to play Virginia Tech, USC. They play a good schedule. If they got one loss, you compare them in with Ohio State, possible Iowa, Penn State, some of these one-loss teams, they're going to have an argument as well as anybody. Say B12 is up with a one-loss champion. Notre Dame has some arguments. I don't think that they probably wouldn't make it, but they'll have as good arguments as other people would.
All right. Let's now shift into our next topic. And, of course, like you said, people are more worried about the style points for Notre Dame. And, yeah, we get it. And a win is a win, regardless. So LSU last week, in prime time at home, lost to an Auburn team who it has a new head coach with Brian Harsin, who has looked pretty decent. But LSU, though, their head coach, I don't know why I'm saying it's Steve Sarkisian at Texas, but head coach Ed Orgeron, he is on the hot seat right now, and I want to ask you, do you think his seat is, like, let's say LSU loses today to Kentucky, could you see Ed Orgeron being fired?
Yes. Yes, I do see him getting fired if he loses today. I don't think they'd lose today. I think they go Kentucky, win them. It kind of tones down a little bit, yes, but they still got to play Alabama, LSU. I think they play Florida over in the East, so they still got enough schedule. He's got to win, I'd say, about 9 games to possibly keep his job.
For me, I think that this is the game, in my opinion, that if he loses, and I think it's going to depend on, when you're looking at it from the AD standpoint, how do you lose? So, say that it's a competitive game, it comes down to the last play of the game, I think Ed Orgeron keeps his job. But if Kentucky were to go out and blow them out and make LSU look worse, you can go look at the roster of LSU. They've got a lot of talent, and they still have some talent left from that championship team just 2 years ago. And they should be better than what they are. But I think today is going to be, it's like style points don't really matter when it comes down to how good a team is. But today for LSU, they cannot afford to get blown out to Kentucky, or Ed Orgeron will lose his job. That's my opinion. I think that's the way that it's going to happen. Now, the rest of the schedule is not easy for Ed Orgeron. No. It's not easy whatsoever. But I think for an LSU fan, you do have to seem hopeful, though, about next season, because, you still have all this talent. And look, your starting quarterback, Max Johnson's still a young quarterback who's developing. And last season, you didn't really have any kind of preseason to say, like any fall camps or whatever. You only had like 1 week to really practice for last season. So, I think what you got to see here is that I think LSU's got a lot of talent, and they got a hopeful future. But to me, you can't use last year as an excuse, because every team had the same
practice and all that. And no, there's a lot more to it than just talent. But your best defense player is out for the year now. Daryl Stingley Jr. says he's having surgery. And they say he's out for the year. But LSU can't run the football. They didn't even try to run the football against Auburn last Saturday. Offensively looked terrible because of that. There's a lot of problems at LSU. There's lots of off the field. They lose. I don't care how they lose. They lose today. I think he's done. I think he's over with. But if they were to win today and then end up, say, win 9 games, he may keep his job. If he beats Alabama, he keeps his job. But if he gets blown up by Alabama, that might be the end of it too. But the fans at LSU are ready for him to go. You can see stuff on the internet and TV. The fans at LSU, they're ready for him to go. They're ready to get somebody else in there. And there are a lot of big names that could potentially want that job too. So, yeah, if I'm an LSU fan, I hope they get beat today and they're done with him.
Right. And I got a question, and that is, with all the names that are in the hat right now to take LSU, I mean, you got James Franklin in there, and you've got a bunch of other guys. Joe Brady's been thrown in there because he was the passing game coordinator who brought in the system that helped Joe Burrow and that offense win the national championship, which was a lot of the Saints' offense. So let me ask you, who do you think, if Ed Orgeron's fired, who do you think would take that job?
The first person I call is Hugh Freeze at Liberty. I don't think Joe Brady. I think he stays in the NFL. I've heard a lot of stuff, and he likes the NFL a lot better. James Franklin's got a job at Penn State, but when he leave Penn State, I don't know. That's a good job, but you also got the USC job. But if it's me, I'm calling Hugh Freeze first. Look what he did at Ole Miss with a lot less talent. Look what he's doing at Liberty. I think you put him at LSU with that type of talent, I think he'd do great. The second person, if he didn't take it, second would be Billy Napier at Louisiana. So already knows about the state. He's a very good coach. I would call him. He'd probably be the second one I'd call. After that, I don't know where I'd go. Those would be the first 2 I would call.
Yeah, the Billy Napier kind of threw me for a little bit of a curveball. But, I mean, I understand it. I mean, Louisiana, what Billy Napier's done at Louisiana is pretty remarkable if you think about it. I mean, last year you beat Iowa State at Iowa State, which, don't get me wrong, Iowa State was pretty good last season, and that was a pretty good win for a Louisiana team that nobody had any expectations for at all. And I mean, you go look at how the Sun Belt is. The Sun Belt's an interesting conference to watch. I mean, yeah, it's not to the level of Power 5 play, but it's still fun football to watch, just as a fan. But I agree. Hugh Freeze should be the first guy. What he did at Ole Miss, beating Alabama twice, it speaks for itself.
Made the Sugar Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
To go with Sugar Bowl. But let's also go back to Billy Napier. Also the offense coordinator at Arizona State, receiver coach at Alabama. So he's been at bigger time programs, understands the whole deal. Louisiana, they've been very good the last couple of years, and that young guy, I like him too. And he turned down some jobs this past year. So obviously if he turned down something, either he likes Louisiana or he's waiting for something bigger. It don't get much bigger than LSU.
All right. Well, we do have a little announcement right here for you, and that is the new, and we do want to announce that starting on Tuesday, November 2nd, College Football Wraparound will come to you live on Tuesday nights with the CFP Ranking Show. So, if you want to get our take on what you want to know from us about the rankings, then we will be live on Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So this will be fun. And Jack, I know that you are excited for this.
Oh, yeah, it should be interesting to see how the rankings come out and see what our takes are on them. And I mean, I'm assuming, I know it's early, but we can almost assume Alabama and Georgia will probably be in there. And then seeing that, after that, we'll see. We'll see how people rank certain teams. Cincinnati, if they stay undefeated, where they going to be ranked to be very interesting to see what the actual committee thinks about them. We'll be interested to see, but we've got a couple of weeks to go. And, who knows? Will be some upsets come up too.
And I was looking at the rankings this past week, well, this morning, and the way the rankings are right now, it kind of confuses me a little bit. And the reason why I say that is because like Penn State, since of course, as you know, Oregon got beat last week. They were number 3. Iowa, who was number 5, jumped them. But and I know you can't really go by because you haven't played each other, but Iowa, would you agree with me that Penn State's win against Auburn would hold more than what Iowa's at Maryland would?
Well, yeah, you can toss up either way. I like Penn State better, but Iowa's got probably the best defense in America. And let's not forget, Maryland was undefeated, and I think they turned the ball over, 6, 7 times against Iowa. So Iowa's got, I say, them and Georgia probably the best 2 defenses we've seen. But in reality, it doesn't matter. They play each other today. You also got 2 of the longest win streaks going. Iowa's won 11 straight, Penn State 9. So you got, and the last time Penn State got beat was to Iowa. So today is a big day for both of them. But as far as overall, we got to look at Penn State, went to Wisconsin, beat them, it beat Auburn. So Penn State, have they been tested? We're going to see. I do think they've been tested. And I think and you look at right now, if Iowa wins this one, they may win out and win that side of Division Big Ten and be undefeated going to the championship game, which would be huge for the Big Ten. So it's an interesting game, but I like Penn State a little bit better.
And then also another thing, I was looking at the rankings, I saw where after Oregon's loss, and I understand that they dropped quite a bit, but they're 1 rank behind Ohio State, who they went on the road and beat. So, from your opinion, would you, even though, both Oregon and Ohio State are both 4-1, would you have put Ohio State ahead of Oregon, or would you put Oregon ahead of Ohio State just based on the head-to-head?
Hell, if you go head-to-head, you have to put Oregon ahead of them. But if you look at the competition, the schedule, I say Ohio State's probably better. Plus, if you may not realize this, Ohio State actually leads America in yards per play. So it's Ohio State. Everybody's down on them, but they got the 1 loss. This is a team that I would be very shocked if they didn't win out the rest of the year. And I think this may be one of the 1-loss teams in the playoffs. Ohio State has a history of losing early, then winning out. Plus, the schedule they're going to play. They're going to play Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State. Could run into a possible Iowa in the championship game. That schedule is going to put them, if they win out, they'd be in the playoffs. So, I think people need to watch out for Ohio State.
And I kind of agree. You lose against Oregon, who was, you think about it all regular, building it up towards the season, that was probably going to be maybe the biggest game you're going to play all season. You lost. And I think since then they have looked better, but you're going to have to, you still got to play Penn State and Michigan. And and this is honestly, from what I've seen of Michigan, this is the best team they've had since 2016 when Ohio State and Michigan played at Ohio State, and everybody kind of knows how that went. JT Barrett, the controversial call where where people were trying to figure out, was he short or did he gain it? Personally, I don't think JT Barrett got the first down on that play, but of course that's back in the past. You can't go back and rewrite something from the past. But then also Penn State is not, it's not a pushover either for Ohio State. So
yeah. And they will play at Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm right, I bet they do.
Right. And it's probably going to be a whiteout there as well. So
yeah, I don't remember. See, the Penn State or Michigan. One of them goes to Ohio State. There's supposed to be another whiteout. But I think it's Ohio State. I may be wrong. But this, going back to, though, we're talking about Oregon. Yes, they lost. That's a bad loss. Lose to Stanford. Stanford was 3-2. And I don't know how they did last night. I believe they were getting beat last I seen. But that being said, though, if Oregon wins out and they got one loss, but yet they got to win at Ohio State, they got a very good argument for the playoffs also. So you got 2 or 3 teams, if they were to win out, it's going to have an argument if you end up with a bunch of one-loss teams. And you will. I do believe you will. I think you have maybe at best 2 teams go undefeated. And I think that's the best we'll see. But if you only end up with one undefeated, then you got a bunch of one-loss teams, then you're going to look at Ohio State, possible Oregon, possible Big 12 champion, if it could be a Texas or Oklahoma, Notre Dame. You got a bunch of one-loss teams who have a lot of good arguments. But it's a lot of football season to play, though.
Yep, I agree. So, but I will say that I think if you have only 2 undefeated teams, I feel like you're going to have a Big Ten champion and an SEC champion undefeated at the end of the year. I'm not going to say, I'm not saying between either teams right now, but I feel like the Big Ten is going to have an undefeated champion, which could either be Iowa, Penn State, or Michigan, and then Alabama and Georgia for the SEC. So that's just how I see it. So, now before we get into the picks, I do want to mention that we have some shirts online at PC and More Gifts on Facebook. You can go to that page and you can buy some merchandise of our channel, and we do hope that you will buy something, because what you buy from our merchandise line is going to help us go towards making this channel better. So please, if you would like to help us in getting us to a point where we can bring you the best content that you will be able to see, then please buy something off of our merch line. Of course, that'll help us in the future. So, it is time to get into the picks. I don't know if you think this is a good game, but I do. It's a rivalry game. Boise State at BYU. It's got a lot of rivalry implications here. What do you think?
I like BYU. Boise is a little bit disappointed. They've already lost 2, I think twice already. Have not looked good. New coach, transitioning, but I like BYU. This is a team that nobody's talking about. Undefeated. They finish up at USC. This could very easily, you get down to debate BYU, Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
You know, look at this. I had to look at the schedule, compare, but I like BYU in this one.
As far as, like, for me, though, I think that BYU is going to win the game. And I think, like you said, if it came down to Cincinnati and BYU between who would make the playoff, I think BYU would be put ahead because of the schedule that BYU played is just a tiny bit better than Cincinnati's, in my opinion.
Well, they did beat Arizona State, and I don't remember if Arizona State won last night, but that's Arizona State's only loss. And that's if they won last night. You could have potential Arizona State win the Pac-12 and BYU beat them on a neutral site. So that's a very big win.
Yeah, going back to what you're saying about the BYU, Arizona State Stanford game. Arizona State won the game 28-10. So yes, so Arizona State's only loss comes to a BYU team. Next game in prime time, Michigan at Nebraska. This is a little bit of a sneaky good game tonight. Wouldn't you agree?
I think it's going to be a very good game. And I'm going to pick Michigan, but I would not be shocked if Nebraska beats them. Nebraska, if anybody's watched them the last couple of weeks, should have beat Michigan State. Had a very good shot at beating Oklahoma. They played very well. Yes, they lost to Illinois. You got forget that game. Go what they've looked like the last 3 or 4 weeks. Blew out Northwestern Saturday. I wouldn't be shocked, but I'll still go Michigan.
I'm going to go Michigan as well. I just think they're this is their best season since 2016, like I've said. And I think the big thing, it comes down to the Ohio State game for Michigan. I'm going Michigan. We were running low on time, so let's keep rolling. Maryland at Ohio State in moments.
Ohio State blowout.
Agreed. Ohio State will convincingly beat Maryland.
Yeah.
Also in prime time, Alabama goes to College Station to pit a game between Saban and his former assistant Jimbo Fisher. What do you think?
Same thing. Bama blowout. A&M's quarterback's not very good. Offensive line problems. Bama blowout.
I agree. I mean, you're talking about a game that coming into the season, everybody was saying, this is the game of the year. And, and I mean, their starting quarterback, Haynes King, got hurt early in the season, hasn't played since. So, I mean, I believe that's part of the issue with A&M. But,
yeah,
I mean, Bama's going to win this game convincingly tonight.
Yeah.
All right. In the 2:30 slot, Georgia, the second best team in the country, heads to the Plains to face Auburn.
Well, first of all, we can't say the second best team in the country. Them and Alabama are pretty even. I think Georgia blows out Auburn. I think they beat them by 2 to 3 touchdowns. I think defensively they're too good. But you can't say they're second best team because they could very easily be the best team.
Right.
Hopefully we'll find out on the field.
And I do think that this is I mean, to me, I think that it could be a little closer than you think it is, but I mean, I think honestly for Georgia, as long as their defense plays well, then they don't have to put up 100 points. I feel like this could actually be more of your old school SEC game, maybe like a Georgia win, like 28-7. I mean, that's where I see it because Georgia doesn't have to do much in this game as long as their defense plays the way it's played. So, I mean, I think Georgia gets the win.
No.
All right. Also coming up in moments, the Red River rivalry in Dallas, Texas. Oklahoma will be playing as the road team today against Texas. Who do you got?
Well, we probably agree on this one, but I like Oklahoma. I don't know, just something about them. They didn't do pretty good in bigger games. I like Oklahoma.
Yeah, to me, it's kind of a difficult one for me. And I understand Oklahoma is Oklahoma, but I have a feeling Texas could get it done today, so I'm going to go Texas. And then, the game of the week, Penn State at Iowa.
This is going to be an interesting game. I like both of them pretty well, but I think Penn State's been tested. I think offensively a little bit better than Iowa, but I think Iowa's defense is great. But I like Penn State. I think this might be their year. They just make a run.
Yeah, I'm going to go Penn State as well, but from what I think this is going to be a rock fight. Both defenses are incredible, and I think this is going to be a game that whoever the first team to get to 10 points is going to win the game. That's just my opinion. So,
Yep.
Well, everybody, that is it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this, and of course, like we said, go to PC and More Gifts on Facebook and buy some merch to help us forward our channel. Of course, it'll help us a lot. So with that, thanks for watching and enjoy your college football Saturday.